Do you want to introduce this one, Ma?
Why do I look like a Muppet?
Why does no one else want to do it?
I'll do it. What do I say?
Whatever you want.
No.
Just welcome,
everybody.
You don't have to scream it. Oh, I'm doing the intro. I guess I should talk loud.
Well,
okay, go.
Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of My Mama Done Told Me. I'm Lauren. I'm here with my brother Jeff.
That's me.
And my mama Kath.
Hey, that's me.
And today, Jeff,
Uh-huh.
what are we talking about?
Well, Lauren, good intro, by the way.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate
I'm trying to
that.
break you into...
That was my first take.
The first take you screamed into the microphone. I had to turn you down.
I was trying really hard. If I try really hard, then I'm loud.
You try hard.
I'll try hard.
Or try hard.
Die hard, try hard.
Do you think, Lauren, are you happy?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mom, are you happy?
I'm very happy.
Do you think...
I'm super happy.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Do you think that it's possible to change your level of happiness? Or does it stay the same regardless of the situations you're in?
No.
Let's talk about happiness.
What kind of a question is this?
What kind of a question is this, she says. So the other podcast that we do, Documentary, we did an episode on a documentary called Happy, and where Lauren and I and our buddy Matt, we sat down and talked about happiness and some of those things. I kind of re-listened to that episode because I wanted to kind of freshen up on this topic just a little bit.
Brush up on your happy.
So I'm interested, Lauren, since Mom accused me of always choosing her first, even though it is her name in the title of the show. But, you know, what do you think? Is it possible to change your level of happiness?
Si, senor.
Yeah? Speak to that.
Okay. So I think that it's very possible to change your happiness level. I actually have gone through something very recently that I wasn't all that happy about, but I was able to smile through it and make it better than it could have been. Recently at work, we've gone through a move I've moved to a different building, and I was very resistant to it at first inside, but I didn't talk about how resistant I was to it, and I kind of pasted a smile on, and it actually did make it better. It made it easier for me. The transition has been easier. I, had a better attitude just by not dwelling on the negative parts of it and focusing more on what could go right than what could go wrong. So I think there's a lot to say, that says a lot about our outlook. Yeah. If we what we focus on is what we're going to exude. And that even, I think, helps the people around you, because if you're exuding, optimism rather than,
pessimism.
I don't know. Yeah. I guess. Then the people, what?
Yeah. Or negativity.
Negativity.
Right. If you right.
Yeah, then the people around you are less likely to be like super negative. They're more likely to join in your positivity than they are.
A lot of people are like sponges that will latch onto the energy around them and feel that same thing. And so that has a lot to do with it.
So I think that the question is it possible to change your level of happiness, or does it stay the same regardless of the situation? And I think situation has a lot to do with it. Like if it's a situation where you're like, oh, this, is it different levels of happiness? You know what I mean? Or are we talking about changing our level of happiness from negativity to a more positive outlook, making it easier to, I don't know, get through the day or whatever.
So it sounds like you're talking, where this question took your brain was the route of situationally, which it mentions in the question, but like by each situation, you can help to determine based on some conscious and mindful decisions,
right,
and choices to maybe have an effect on your happiness level or your acceptance of, or however you want to word it, of that situation.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go into it thinking this is going to suck, well, it's probably going to suck.
more
But if
likely
you
gonna
go
suck, yeah.
into it thinking, this isn't exactly what I wanted to happen today, but I guess we're here, might as well make the best of it, then you're going to
Sure.
make the best of it. And whether that's not the best,
Mhm.
but at least you're not wallowing in the fact that whatever you're doing sucks,
Right.
Yeah.
Mom, I'm interested where this question went in your head. Did it go the same direction as Lauren or anything else?
Well, I think mine went both places. It went situationally. I think it's a broader spectrum of happiness. Is like, okay, so there's situational happiness of moving or whatever it is that you're going through that moment. But then there's also like this overall happiness with your life or your whole being. And I think I went to the point of more overall thinking of
So did
happiness
I.
with my life, which was more like, am I content where I am, and am I fulfilled where I am, and can that change? And I think it could, but I think Lauren is right on target with saying her attitude. And then, a lot of the stuff we've talked about in the past and a lot of the things that I hear now, they're so feelings based and truth based and all that. And it's like, you didn't want to move, or you were afraid of it and you're thinking this is going to suck, but you didn't say, well, this is going to suck. And I have a right to have that feeling. So I'm just going to feel it and everybody can just deal with it. You saw what it was like to say, I'm going to make the best of it and make that situation better. And what happened as a result of that was you felt happier, and everybody around you felt happier because you didn't sit in it. You didn't sit in that moment of saying, this just sucks. And I have a right to be angry about it. And I have a right, I can do this. I don't like it. You said, no, this is going to be. So I do think you can definitely change your level of happiness just by. And did you feel like that was faking it?
No.
Because
I didn't feel like it was.
I feel like today, a lot of people are saying, if you do that, that's fake. But I don't think it's fake. I think that's how you build resilience. That's how you build. That's how you say this is a temporary thing and it's going to be better at the end. And that's a good thing.
Right.
And so you just suck it up.
And I think it's just
and you do it.
Right. I think it's like the adopting an attitude of adjustment. No. An attitude of optimism rather than wherever your mind goes anyway. So like my mind went there, but I made a conscious decision to be optimistic and think, how many times in the past has something happened where I wasn't real stoked about it, but in the end I was, you have to think about it, in 6 months, I'm going to go, remember when we were at the old building? How weird was that? Like, it's so much better here, or maybe not better, but like, gosh, I don't even think about that anymore. I don't.
I think that happiness is a result of something. It's more of a state and not a characteristic or a trait. Happiness is a state of mind, which is exactly where you went with it. And resilience, I mean, it's like you described resilience to a T by saying, I know that 6 months down the road, I'm going to look back and think, oh, this is
no big deal.
This was no big deal. But if you can't do that, if you're in a place where you're saying, this just is horrible and I'm never going to get out of it and I don't know what to do, then you're going to be in this dark hole back here and everybody around you is going to be miserable too.
But I also want to, I think I want to be careful too when saying that I hesitate to say that simply having a good attitude about something can make you happier about a situation.
No, it's
Because
very
Not everything.
situational.
Yeah, and
No.
there are
Yeah,
certain things that
yes.
we all go through
Yes.
that if it doesn't matter how good how much positivity I want to shove into it, this is
Right.
just a crappy situation.
Right.
And
Right.
that is a valid feeling.
Yeah,
and
for
and
sure.
there
It
and that
is.
does help you make decisions on what should happen next. And it
It
can be
does.
very hard to
But
to find the positivity in that stuff, especially if you feel. I'll let you go, Mom, but I've been pretty quiet here on this episode, so hang on.
you
It's hard, I think, sometimes to find the positivity in it, especially when you keep feeling like things are beating you down. And the
Right.
positivity gets really hard to continue to hold on to when you don't, so I do have somewhere else that I want to go with this question, but I just wanted to add that in there because I
Yeah.
don't want anyone to think,
Okay.
or for any of us to think that we're saying, it's as simple as, how I look at it is going to make it a lot better.
Right, because
It
that
might
is
not.
toxic
No.
positivity right
Yes.
that
there.
is
Yeah.
that's just one facet of
Yeah.
of it. That's just one
Oh, for
facet. There's a
sure.
lot of facets. I mean, you can, whatever the situation is, if it, depending on what it is, to look at it and say, okay, is there something I can do to
Mhm.
make it better or more positive, instead of maybe not having that there? You know what I mean? I mean, it's, if
But there are things that are not in our control,
Right.
such as mental health
Right.
issues or
Right.
Physical health
abusive
issues.
physical health issues, abuse
right,
situations, domestic violence, things
Trauma,
like
things-
trauma, things
Yeah,
like,
of course.
like PTSD or, things like that.
But those are things that you can also have a positive spin on those by getting the help you need, and not
Sure.
just sitting in that. You don't sit in that. You're still looking for help in those situations, even if it is
Sure.
whatever
Yeah,
you just described. You still go looking for help.
a willingness to. So
Right.
the question is, is it possible to change your level of happiness? Well, if we boil it down, you have to be willing to let yourself be happy as well. And
Right.
a lot of people, that's hard to accept. And that's not necessarily a fault of their own. Unfortunately, even if it's not their fault, it is our problem. So it is our responsibility to do for ourselves what we feel like we need to do for ourselves and to get us there. I do want to kind of give my thought as where this question took me, though. Is it possible to change your level of happiness? And I kind of zoomed out quite a ways on this. It was kind of interesting to me to how far, like, Lauren, you zoomed in on it, on the situational thing. I was way out on it, and
You were more big picture.
yeah, and
Okay.
it was, when we talked about the documentary Happy and whatnot, we had mentioned, how a lot of times a lot of it comes down to, are your needs being met, right? So it is very possible to change your level of happiness based on your are your needs being met. So I might be unhappy if I'm starving and don't have access to clean water, or I don't, and my happiness will increase. Scientifically, my happiness will increase if I find access to clean water and food, regular access to it, where it's no longer a stress of mine. If I can't, if I every month am not making my rent and I'm having to worry about living on the streets, or I'm worried about my own physical safety for whatever reason, then my happiness levels, like I said, scientifically, if they do the scans of all the brainwaves and dopamine and all that stuff, and my happiness level does go up when those things continue to be met. But statistically, we do as humans generally kind of peak in what we consider an overall general happiness. Now, that's not to say optimism versus, negativity versus whatever, in certain situations. That's not, it's an overall like happiness or overall acceptance of our own situation and of our lives and of our situations all around. So, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very base level is food, water, shelter, and all that. And as you go up, there are things that, you have to have those things before you can get on to the next thing. And then at the very top, it's like social justice and things like that, where you can fight for those things. You can pursue those things when the things underneath it are met, right? Well, as you go up that pyramid, at some point, we as humans do tend to peak. So I think this question boils down to, where are you at on that happiness scale? Are you at your peak? And can you change that? You could go down for sure, but can you go up? The classic example is with, money, right? Can money buy happiness? Well, it can buy you opportunities that could make you happy, and I say,
and your needs are met for sure.
And I say in a lot of ways, money can buy a certain level of happiness, because it can buy you the opportunity to do the things that make you happy, or to be around the people that make you happy. So can it buy? No, technically you can't just go buy happiness, but you can take away the stress of needing to pay your rent and be a slave to, a society and all that. And so anyway, we're getting so deep, and it's Mom's favorite thing we go this deep, but but at some point you can have all that money, and you can watch the however many thousands, millions of people that have unlimited amounts of money, to where money is no longer an object, and they are generally more unhappy and unhappy, right? So kind of depends on your situation, where you came from, where did you get that money, where'd you, whatever, like those things do have an effect on it, and you can find more happiness in the guy living in a shack with his family, who's getting all his needs met, and he's around the people he loves, and he has the things met, or the tribe in Africa who's, doesn't have all the social stuff, but at the same time, there is a certain like if right now I became someone who didn't have to work for a living anymore, I think my happiness level would increase, because all of a sudden I don't have to worry about the next paycheck, those sort of things, so that's where my brain went with this. So
right, but I think that happiness is a result of contentment and satisfaction. So even if you lost your job and because you had or you didn't have to work anymore because you had so much money, Jeff, I can't imagine that you would be satisfied and content without having some kind of a purpose.
Right.
And so I
it
think
might
a
just
lot
be
of
different.
times it would be a different thing. It wouldn't be your work, but it would be something else. And if you didn't have that, I don't know that you continue to be satisfied and content. And so I think you talked about the people in the, little trailer or the tribes or whatever, they're content. They don't know anything else. They've got enough food. They've got enough shelter. They have the things that they need to make them feel satisfied and content, and they're happy.
Right.
And like Tarzan, I think about you and Tarzan. Tarzan wasn't happy when he went to New York or wherever it was he went. He was not happy there, even though he had way more than he ever had in the jungle. So happiness isn't connected with that. It's connected with contentment and satisfaction.
Right. And I think the only reason that I bring up that is because in my current situation, in the majority of the world who live in as a part of our society right now, we have to have, you're right, Mom, you're absolutely right, that if I all of a sudden became significantly wealthy and was just independently wealthy, and I had money was no longer an object, all of a sudden I don't have, I would still do things. I'm not just going to sit, right now I get off work and I want to sit for hours
And
because
you might want to do that
Right.
for a
Yeah.
week or two,
And I
but
might-
after that,
but I wouldn't be
Yeah, for
happy with
sure.
doing that. And,
Mhm.
Mom, you understand that you retired, but you're busier now than you probably were when you were working. But those are the things that you want to do to find that satisfaction and to
Right.
help others and to whatever
it
brings
frees you up.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it frees up your creativity. It frees up your bandwidth for the people around you. It frees up those things where it's more of a want to and not a need to. Well, that's,
Right.
that's a big difference. If I'm
Yeah.
living in a tribe in another, in somewhere, whatever, and I know that I'm at no risk of, short of me not going hunting with the hunting crew and us making the fire, like those are our jobs, right? Well, those things aren't going to stop because you still have to do those things, whether you're paying for it or whether you're making it with your own hands.
Sure,
You're still
yeah.
getting those things, and you're able to sit and relax. There's no risk of that guy's boss going, hey, you don't have a job anymore, and now I don't know what I'm going to do.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's not about not having to do things. It's about not having to do things,
Right.
but getting to do things and getting to, how much more invention, how much more creativity, how much more happiness, how much more and I don't want everyone to think that I'm sitting here talking about being like a communist or a Marxist or something like that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying in a perfect world, we wouldn't have these institutions that keep us in a state where we feel like every bit of our free time needs to be spent sleeping or relaxing, or it shouldn't have to be a vacation to go have some time to myself and breathe some fresh air. That should be things that we get to enjoy, that we get to, that are part of our happiness. Because I come back from a week-long vacation in Florida with my family, and we all just got amplified, because we had fresh air, we had time to ourselves, we had a chance to regenerate at the beginning and then enjoy toward the end.
Yeah.
So all that said, to say that, yes, I think we can affect our own happiness. It doesn't stay the same regardless, but I also think that there is a peak. I just don't know that any of us have ever necessarily been there.
Maybe not. But
I
I
don't know.
feel like there's always something else you can do that, like when we were talking about, gosh, what was the topic? I can't remember. But when we were talking about generosity and like doing things for other people, like I feel like that
Positive
just
impact.
Yeah, you can have a positive impact on other people, other people, animals. You can help with homeless, you can
Yeah.
help, mission trips or whatever. Like none of that stuff is cheap. None of that stuff is free. None of that is, it all costs something, whether it's time or so if you could be the most generous person who wants to help all the people, but if you have to have a 40-hour plus a week job in order to put food on your table and a roof over your head, that doesn't leave you much time to do that. So
Right.
I feel like happiness level could go up there too, even if you've peaked elsewhere. I think there's other facets to it
Yeah.
that you could,
I could see that.
that you could amplify your happiness a little bit more, or make yourself, do things that make you feel
Good.
better. Yeah.
Yep. Just because you're overall happy doesn't mean that you're not going to have days that feel like crap, and that doesn't mean you're not going to have days that feel really good and still do things that are fun.
Yeah.
I can be a happy person. That doesn't mean I'm having fun all the time.
Right. Sure.
I can
Right,
still go
right,
have an
right.
adrenaline, rush. I can still go do something that makes me,
And I
happy.
do think that there's people that have careers that make them happy.
Oh, sure.
I
Yeah.
think I'm just going to throw out, I don't know, veterinarians or doctors or somebody that really wants to go help people. They get paid for it. They work probably more than 9 to 5 every day.
Mhm.
They throw themselves into it. It's a job, a paying job, but it makes them happy. So I
Right.
think I don't want to discount these people that are out there working like crazy, but they're happy in their career.
Right.
You know, they enjoy it, they like it, and
Yep.
they're working towards, you know, unfortunately in this country, we have to work towards our retirement. So I think about Larry, you know, every time when he
Mhm.
worked all those years, it was like he was grateful for his job, and it's like, okay, we can put money in the 401k, we can invest money, we can do all this, and then when we retire, we'll have a nice life, which it
Mhm.
all worked out, and that made him happy while he was doing it. And
Mhm.
now it's making him even happier now that we get to reap the benefits
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah,
so
and
I
that's
mean,
I'm a
there's
firm
rewards to the work.
for sure. And I'm a firm believer that if you took away right now the need for money, like if we just somehow pulled the rug out where the money system is no longer a thing, yeah, it would turn to chaos for a while
Yeah.
first, but past that, once the initial shock was, and this was the new norm, you know, after we clean up all the dead bodies and put out all the fires, because
Yeah,
it'd be awful after, you know, for
Yeah.
first,
still alive.
but after the dust settled, I'm a firm believer that people would still be physicians, people would still be scientists, people would still be farmers, because even if it wasn't for money, you know. So that may be a topic for a different time,
Yeah.
because you know we're reaching the end
Yeah,
of our
yeah,
episode here. But I
right.
do think that, you know, that is not working, isn't only, we don't only work necessarily for the paycheck, but I think the majority of people do it mostly for that, and do
Yeah.
what they're currently doing mostly for that.
And the
You know,
results of
and
what that paycheck, the results of what that paycheck brings. I mean, that's why when I worked, it was like, okay, if I don't work, I'm not going to be able to provide for the children. I'm not going to be able
right,
to give this. I'm not going to be able to eat. You know, I
right.
mean, I guess you know, we're from two different generations. And so our
That's why this is
generation was a
fun.
working generation. Yes. And so we were a working generation where there was no question that you got up and worked. And I was grateful to have a job, and I liked my jobs as well as you can like a job.
Right.
And when I got those paychecks, it was like, this is what it's all about. This is life. This
Hmm.
is what you do. And I never once thought about what society would be like if there was no money, and there
Hmm.
was no earning, and there was no, you know, I enjoy the challenge of all of that. So that's the difference in
Yeah,
our generations, I
I
guess.
actually think that we should probably talk about that sometime, because I have some
Hmm.
thoughts about that too. Because I think Lauren and I are in a generation where we, maybe everybody thinks this about their generation, but we have what I consider to be the generation that still values work ethic, still values that, but also is able to see that there could be something different or better. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me thinking that we're more important than we are, but I don't know.
I don't know either.
I wanted to say
Yeah,
one thing. I did have one thing to say,
go
that
ahead.
about happiness, is that you can be happy and sad at the same time.
Oh yeah.
When you think about, yeah, I mean, you think about bittersweet moments.
Hmm.
You think about your kid's graduation. You know, you're very sad that no longer, you know,
Hmm.
easy to cry because you know your kid is no longer in school anymore, and they're going to go off into this new chapter, or a wedding.
Hmm.
Those kinds of things, they're very bittersweet. You're sad for the ending of one chapter, but you're
Hmm.
also happy at the very same time. So happiness is like not overall, it doesn't take over your whole being.
Right.
It's just part of your psyche.
Yep.
But
Words of wisdom from the matriarch.
a lot of bittersweet moments in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. So to our listeners, is it possible to change your level of happiness, or does it stay the same regardless of your situation? We want to know what you think. Hit us up on our email. That's the best way to get a hold of us. That email address is...
My mama done told me podcast@gmail.com.
That is correct. We are also on social media, so if you want to get on there or wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a follow, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you think we're full of the gobbledygook, the gobbledygook, or if you think we're right on target. Stay on target. Yeah, so all that information will be in our show notes.
Show notes.
Joy notes.
It makes me laugh every time. Well, we hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Until next time, this has been My Mama Done Told Me. We'll be back next time with another fun topic of conversation, or maybe it'll be scary, or maybe it'll be sad, or spooky. Do we know what next time's?
I do.
No, do you?
No,
I don't
not
know
off the
what
top
it
of
is.
my
I
head.
can't remember.
I know.
Mom, we love you. We'll see you next time. Listeners, again, be kind. Keep your minds open.
Is
And
I
we'll,
love you, Lauren?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Love you, Mom.
Bye.
Love you too.
Lauren, say I love you to our mother.
I love you too.
I love you too.
I feel like I look like a Muppet.
Is a cat there?
Yeah.
Horse here.
Aw.
Come here, baby.
Which one?
The puss.
Which one's there? The puss? I want to see
Yeah,
her.
sweetie puss. Hers right there. There she is.
She's so
Actually,
sweet.
Babies. Oh,
Oh,
her ears.
can we see
She was like,
it?
ouch. Come here, babies. Baby puss.
Oh,
sweetie.
look at that tail.
Right.